My wife says that the breakdown of our marriage is all my fault. Is she right? Is she right that this is all my fault? Is she right that I am completely to blame? Do I have to take all the responsibility? So let's jump in. This is the C Note Show with myself and Cynthia Cruz. Here in the C Note Show, we know that she wants safety, inspiration, and sexual leadership. We also know that we need to cultivate our mojo like a king to inspire more intimacy and connection. We can't do that if we're making mistakes within our own life, if we're not on fire within our own chest when we turn our shoulders toward the world. So is the marriage breakdown all our fault? Is she right when she says that? This is a quote from the Dalai Lama. When you think everything is someone's fault, you will suffer a lot. When you realize that everything springs only from yourself, you will learn both peace and joy. And this is the crux of this work, is we want to bring freedom and peace and joy and leadership into our lives as men. And it starts with your internal thinking. It starts with your inner game, that it must come from within you. And whether you've been around this work for years at this point, or this is the first call that you're on, you have an idea within your mind that this can and does spring from within you. That's why you're here. I believe that's why you're attracted to Cynthia and myself and this work, is you do take responsibility for who you are, and you want to learn how to cultivate exactly day to day, week to week, how to cultivate more peace and joy and freedom and attraction in your life. So Cynthia, we talk about that it's 100% on one side and 100% on the other side, right? It's not 50-50 in relationship. It's certainly never any one person's fault, at least the men that we work with. Maybe it's a rare exception that a man might own something like that. But we're complicated. We're a soup of so many experiences, our childhood, the stories that we were taught, whether we've used those stories in a way that serves us or whether it usurps us basically throughout time without us knowing it. And that's what we're here to do. So the 100-100, how is it? Why is it? Or what's the woman's situation when she may blame the man that it's all his fault? So just the surface level of what's behind that for a woman in this disillusionment phase of relationship, or when she's wanting space or wants separation.
Yeah, I would say, so let's say there's two layers to the surface layer. And the first layer that she responds to is a total lack of awareness that there is masculine frame in life, or unaware of your masculine frame. And so because there's an absence of that, she's going to use her knowledge of what it's like to be a woman to judge whether or not you're acting the right way, or receiving her, or if she feels seen or connected to. And so when there's an absence of that, she's going to have it all in her own frame of success or failure. And then beneath that is an incredible amount of her own projection, that very human survival mechanism of, this doesn't make me feel good. It probably doesn't make me feel good about myself. Reminds me of something about myself I find as weak or not acceptable or unlovable. And I'm going to make it someone else's fault, because then I have a sense of control and a little bit of self-safety or self-preservation.
So as you've talked about, it's a way of putting up a shell, a masculine shell. And it's not a very mature masculinity for one to blame. And say more about that. And we could certainly open this up. I'm going to ask here in a moment if any man that's on here is in the middle of a situation right now where she's blaming you, where she's saying everything is your fault. And we'll certainly look at the chat, but I want you to feel free to come in here in a moment. So when a woman moves into masculine, if she's not very practiced with that, like if she has a career and she has to show up as a in this masculine energy to check boxes and things, she may be more put together than another woman who's very feminine and is just shelling off and blaming. But either way, that shell or that blame comes off as more of a toxic kind of masculine. And I don't like to throw labels around, but the masculinity that she's putting up is not one of grounding. It's not one of virtue like we want to be as men. It's one of what? What would you say about that?
Yeah, and I would say it's not one of masculine honor. So even if she has a shield and it comes across as she's assertive and she's stating and putting boundaries out there and all the things that maybe even culture says she should do, beneath that is always the feminine yearning to be heard and seen and understood. And so everything she does in the masculine shell is trying to serve that inner need. And so it can come across as kind of manipulative or looks one way, but she's really trying to get something else. And that really can be some of her own naiveness. It can be a very authentic trying to get what she wants, but it's super confusing and conflicting because it's such a different energy than what she's trying to get met deeply inside of her.
So who has a question about this?
It's in here. I'm sorry. I'm going to go. This is my first time here.
Yeah, please. Welcome.
I'm new in this community, and I'm in a fog. So today it's like, oh, okay, I gotta attend this out and all that stuff. So here's the hard part. I'm beyond the hard part. 3 months in a separation. The beginning was I don't love you narrative. So I went to work. I woke up after found a no. You heard about the Ultimate Husband community. Is by Reverend Brett Bradley, and I cried and I say, "What the heck? I'm really an a-hole. I did all this crap." So I'm gonna go fast forward. This was December, so December was I was in a dark, really, really dark world.
Yeah.
And so I would call this the brutal truth, and is that I started to suspect something, that there was something else, because in my 13-year marriage, at least the 11th year, I knew, man, we were overseas, moved in 4 different countries, 2 kids. But that thing started to turn upside down the last 2 years. And I would say that part of that was that I lost my mom. It cost a lot of stuff on me. I became a changed man. So I'll make it quickly. Then found out that she's having an affair. So you imagine, I have a lot of rage and anger, and so I confronted her with this, and she denies it. So how do I deal with this situation? I try to understand that. It's like, what, you got the proof, and the person you love, denies it, and there's nothing I could do with it, right? And that's the hardest part of me. I'm a man of faith. I go to church at least 4 times a week and pray the rosary, and that's the stuff I could not bear. And like 3 tragedies, and I knew that my mom and my dad would go away one day. They live a full life, 93 and 80, and this was unexpected, and it just came like a huge missile just struck me like out of nowhere. So what goes in her mind? Right now, why would somebody just continue to say, like, I don't care what you say, I don't care what you see, doesn't matter to me. I'll continue to say no. It's an accusation. It's a blackmail. It's your way to get me. And so that's my hard spot.
Yeah. Pesh, thank you for coming on. It takes a lot of courage to be here with us and to speak out your story. So thank you to start with there. So your question is, how could she deny it? How could she not want to answer these questions of you? What is your question specifically?
My question is that where does a woman get that? I guess I'm baffled. I question myself that for her to continue to deny the proof of her affair. What goes on her mind?
Sure. So good question. So let's say we can magically answer that question, because we don't know her. We don't know you, right? So let's say we could perfectly answer that question. Then what? If you had the knowledge of why, she denies it, then what would you do?
Well, I know exactly. My position right now is that I keep my values, and my boundaries, and I've said I will not be in a relationship like this. It's just I ask myself many, many times, the other side of me to say, hey, you know what? I can forgive. I believe in forgiveness, but that doesn't mean I will take that journey and all that. It will be probably a different story when you have a person that is remorseful and and apologetic. Then it's a complete different story. Then maybe a journey is possible. So that's my position right now. I'm just kind of lost and said, "Holy cow!"
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Yeah, so many of us, and me included, know what that was like. I came to this work originally back in 2015 because I was in a similar spot to you with my son's mother. And I won't go into that whole story here, but some men have heard part of my story. Some men have heard other parts of my story. So I won't go into that here. But the absolute shock and despair where it feels like everything you've been working for in your life, everything you believed, even why you go to work every day seems to be in question if the love and the relationship isn't there. I'm not going to ask about the proof that you have. I'm not going to ask whether it's really happened or not. In your mind, obviously that it's happened. Okay. It's happening, or it has happened. And therefore your world's just absolutely upside down. And that's where it feels like you are right now. Yeah. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll ask Cynthia this question of why she's denying it, assuming that you found proof. And again, it doesn't matter whether, the proof or not, but the denial or pushing away, I'll have Cynthia answer your question. But to be honest, I don't think that the answer is going to actually help you in deciding what to do next for yourself. It'll help you feel knowledgeable. And we as men have this kind of intellectual orgasm sometimes when we learn why, and that's fair. It's entertaining and it's informational, but ultimately that may not help you in what you want to do next. So I'll have Cynthia answer, and then I do want to ask you, what do you want to do next? It may be to just try to get some sleep. It may be to post in the forum. So I want you to think about that as she answers your question. Okay. So yeah, please.
Yeah, Parrish, thank you for sharing, and for sharing the amount of loss that you've had recently. I feel very honored to hear part of your story. The question you ask about why would she deny this, I would go into the idea that women are more driven by feelings and emotions than their thoughts, even though they often push those feelings and emotions down. And so if there's been a part of her emotionally that's felt like she's been starving, lost, alone, which is all her world. It's not a direct reflection of what's reality. If there's an emotional part of her that's been there that then is getting fed by another source, she will act sometimes like the little kid stealing cookies out of the cookie jar and then denying that she ever took that, because there is this emotional hunger that she believes is only being met by these certain actions. And that makes it not right, not honorable, and not okay. But if she has a motivation, it's often that kind of emotional feeling source versus thinking logically.
So she wants to avoid consequence. There's fear. She doesn't want to feel shamed.
She definitely doesn't want to feel shamed or made wrong, or so all of it's kind of cloaked in a secrecy that she doesn't feel is okay to open up in any way, probably even to herself, even to her own self-awareness.
And part of that secrecy is fun, right? Part of that secrecy releases dopamine. And so what I just said, you're aware of. She doesn't want to feel fear. She doesn't want to be shamed. It may be part of it is fun. But what Cynthia is saying is that she has a hunger that she feels right now, or the past year or two, right, Parrish, that she has a hunger that she feels can only be satiated by what she's currently doing, whether right or wrong or otherwise. So how does that hit you, what Cynthia said? And how's that answer affect you?
I think it makes sense. It's just, I'd say, self-preservation. Just that's what I would say. It's hard just to think about it, but it's helpful of what you just told me.
So yeah, Parrish, let me ask if I may, right? So my opening question today was, where can we take part of responsibility for ourselves, take responsibility for our own selves, regardless of our woman, right? She's 100% responsible for her, and you're 100% responsible for yourself. So where do you feel, and just be honest with us, as honest as you can, where do you feel was a challenge for you, or a blind spot for you, or a potential weakness for you in your relationship? Where can you own something for yourself?
I tell you that I am the problem. Prior to the D-bomb, being dropped on me, I was completely, a lot of pride, a lot of ego. My ideas about maintaining a marriage and how a husband should act and how a husband should treat, the wife is completely wrong. And all that, and that was me. So I fully, I realized that I've contributed a significant amount of failure that led to this, this problem. There's no doubt about it. I wish that I was not ignorant. I wish that I was knowledgeable in how to, manage or how to deal with issues. And, my part of this is also, now I realize my boundaries are all messed up. I was a nice guy. I was say, okay, go ahead and say, as long as you're taking care of the kids, here's the checkbook, and I support you. And if she needed something, I'm there. So it's the boundaries was not set, and I was thinking like, hey, if I just kind of go with the flow, and she'll be happy, and everything was be fine, and all that. So it's completely on me. But I don't, of course, her action is not on me. That is one piece that I will not, I won't condone it. Although the big part, and I feel that I'm enabled that action because of what I did. My story will be different in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. I will be more aware because the signs were there. Now, I'll wake up 3, 4 times at night, and all that stuff comes back that I kind of ignored. That, wow, it was there. The sign was there, and I was completely blind. Not even blind. I just kind of ignored it. I had this gut feeling a few months ago that something is going on. It's not quite right, and I brush it aside.
Well, so if I may, the signs of her cheating is what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of felt that what if it's something going on, and because I kind of noticed a change in behavior and all that. But I would say that I think my wife is really, really good in masking that life. Maybe I say it was really good because I was not. You kind of see something, you feel that gut, but you kind of deny it. I was denying it. Hey, everything's fine because we're, and all that. So that's a hard truth. It's really a rude awakening for me.
Yeah. Well, there's two things. There's two things here I want to put on the table, Parish, and then we'll take a step forward with some other men here today too. We're always happy to talk with you more. Cynthia and I work one-on-one, and we work in group formats as well of how to bring about this confidence back within yourself. But what I want to put on the table here is, sure, going on in the future, what you just said was you may be more aware of the signs of her cheating, and you're going to be more aware of those ahead of time, and you want to be able to set boundaries. Well, I don't think any of us want to get to the point where we have to worry about watching for signs of her cheating, right? So I know that's not ultimately what you want, of course. And so for you, what do you want for your own self? Who have you been over the last 13 years? And where did you lose a piece of who you want to continue to be? Where did you lose a piece of your fire or your heart along the way within your own self?
I'm thinking I didn't even have it from the very beginning. I was basically just say, hey, I'm enjoying life. We have 2 kids. Yeah. We traveled a lot. I'm close to her family. She's close to my family. We get to spend a lot of time with our family. We get to spend a lot of time with family. We traveled with our family. We're heavily traveled. So in my mind, this was fun. I felt that we're connected, and we're both. Yeah, we have ups and downs. We're were both, in my mind, they were trying to nurture our relationship and all that. That's really what I have in mind. And I think part of that is, looking back in the last 13 years, even though I say, hey, you know what, the first 11 years was good and it was happy, it was fun, a lot of excitement, a lot of travel, and time with family. There were things there that I wasn't doing right. I kind of say, hey, I'm one of the nice guy attitude. I think part of that is me, but part of that, I'm doing things that I like. Okay, I'm gonna go travel with my buddies and do a fishing trip for straight 5 days. I'm gonna go do and all that stuff. I was doing something for myself, and I think she didn't like that part that I was gone with my friends and all that for 5 days. Or, part of these is when I had a, coronary heart disease, and I'm good now. I had a stent. I adopted to a plant-based diet, and she kind of was not on board with me. And that was kind of the beginning of my resentment and all that stuff. And that became an issue, and we ended up having an argument, and it turned to be a nasty argument and all that stuff. So I completely lost control of myself, and then my focus was out, and we're gone. And part of that is that I say, hey, I'm in a grief mode where I'm mourning for my mom and dad, plus my change in lifestyle, and then my wife was not there, and I was kind of putting all that stuff on me when I should have this is my grief is my responsibility. My change in lifestyle to adopt a plant-based diet was on me. I should not be expecting my wife to do this for me. So didn't realize it then. Then I was blind. That was my blind spots.
Yeah, Parish. One thing that I realized, like you, is that I had asked the women in my life before learning this work, I had asked them to wear too many hats. I had asked them to wear the hat of therapist, of best friend, of, your mother, my mother. I asked her to wear the hats of being a sex goddess, and also a mother to our children. I asked her to wear all these hats that she didn't want to wear. She didn't want to have the responsibility of being, your grief counselor and your nutrition coach, even though you would love for her to have those roles with you, because we as a man would love to have all that nearby to us. But all of those other hats that I asked my woman to wear squelched the possibility, really killed the opportunity to have the lover dynamic between us be strong. And how to do that is what you'll learn here within this work as well. And so this is our Get Love Back framework. And you have to build masculine frame first at the bottom, then emotional safety, and then learn how to lead in intimacy. And in intimacy, I'll come back to here. Intimacy doesn't mean just sex. Intimacy means the level and depth of the relationship. So when you said that she's hungry for something, what is it that's common, for all of us guys that we didn't learn this from our dad, we had to learn this the hard way or learn this from these groups. We weren't aware of this, and women don't know how to verbalize it necessarily either. But what is it that we practice and we teach in a depth relationship that she may be hungry for, that a man like Parish has not even heard before?
Yeah, that hunger often is a hunger to be invited into a form of her femininity, her expression, her emotionality that in day-to-day life with kids, work, trying to wear different hats, a woman doesn't get to express. And some of those core feelings that she's looking to be invited into is a feeling of being seen and understood and connected with. And what gets confusing about that is I often hear such incredible work of men being like, I want to invite my wife there. I want to see her. I want her to feel connected to, and she's pushing me away. And what really that hunger comes from a deeper place where she gets to be very authentic with what she's expressing, and probably has never been given the opportunity or the space or the container to be allowed to be herself in.
Yeah. And those of you that aren't aware, Great Men Move Mountains, greatmenmovemountains.com. We've got free resources there. We've got a link to our free Facebook page, our private Facebook group that has over 330 guys. We have our free 45-minute audiobook, The Staircase of Intimacy. So greatmenmovemountains.com to check out our stuff.
Yeah. So I appreciate your feedback, appreciate your thoughts and love. I'm learning.
Absolutely. Well, you're in the right place. You're in exactly the right place. And we all started at the finish, or at the starting line. We could start at the finish line. That'd be great. We all started at the starting line, Parrish. So you're in the right spot. Good stuff. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. So looking at the chat, I had asked, where was maybe a weakness of yours in your past relationship? Or where could you take responsibility for a piece of your own self within virtue, control, and responsibility? We've got men that said all three, like, okay, lots of all three. Number 3 was the most deficient. Who has a question or a scenario that they want to put on the table?
So I've been separated from my wife since January, and now I'm at my apartment since March. We tried the in-house thing and it wasn't working for her. Now she's seeing me coming over, and we're seeing each other every other day or every day still. So it's like, what do you mean? Like, we're, separated. Practically all I do is sleep in a different place. Mm-hmm. So I'm just confused. And, we cuddle, we play games together, kisses, hand holding on the, kisses on the cheek. She pulls away if I try to kiss her on the lips, but it's just really confusing to me. She's like making me dinners and she's opening up more now. It's weird and I guess nice at the same time, because I feel like she's gravitating towards me more.
Sure. I understand what you're saying, but what's confusing exactly? I want to hear you verbalize it.
Why are you asking for space if you're still around me? That's not space. So
yeah, definitely. So I'll ask Cynthia the question here in a second. Josh, where is your...
Not complaining about it. I like being around her.
Well, if I were you, I'd be complaining, honestly. Like, I wouldn't be wanting that. I wouldn't be wanting to be like cuddle friends and then her reject me otherwise. I wouldn't want that. With you, though, where is the line? And maybe it's a gray area, but where's the line for you of a relationship, like intimacy for you? Is cuddling, you're okay with cuddling for the rest of your life? Probably not, right? So no. What do you want in relationship?
I already told her I don't want to just be friends.
Okay. And be friends means what? Cuddle and hang out and like that?
Yeah, well, I want to build the relationship, but I understand that it's not I can't build trust overnight. It's going to take time. That's
true. And so it seems as though you're insinuating you think cuddling and being her friend will build trust. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it hurts. That's like a step up the staircase of intimacy, right? It's not like...
This is why I'm asking you. Like, if you and I hung out, we probably wouldn't cuddle.
No.
I wouldn't plan on that. So, but if I have a female friend, I wouldn't be cuddling with her either, because that's an intimate thing for me. Is that an intimate thing for you?
Yeah, it's pretty intimate.
Okay. So it's almost as though she wants certain things, but doesn't want actual intimacy and relationship with you. So she's like happy with certain interactions, or she's getting fed somehow. She enjoys those for some reason, but she doesn't want relationship and she doesn't want sexual intimacy with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. So start us there. What's your question? You're confused why she's doing that? That's still your question. Okay. Yeah.
I think it was like we're making progress, because before, like in the initial month that we started, there was none of that. So it was like we're building up to a better relationship, and that's how I view it as.
Okay, so this is kind of leading to a different question, and we only have so much time. So the making progress, how do you determine your progress for your own self? And Josh, we've done some work, and you're in KLP. So looking at this triangle, what can you control as far as... That's right.
Myself.
That's right. So measuring your progress right now. Mm-hmm.
She told me the other day she notices my changes when I gave myself a little pat on the back in my head. And I was like, yeah, thank you for noticing. She's like, but I want to make sure that you're consistent before I open up fully to you.
Sure. So we've heard that a lot. I'm going to press pause on you, Josh, for the sake of time, and we'll jump forward here. So Cynthia's question is, why why is it that she wants to cuddle and do all these other things, but she doesn't want to go full on with relationship and intimacy?
Yeah. And Josh, everything that you mentioned in terms of this is how we build trust and it's a step on the staircase, and her even saying, like, I want to make sure you're consistent, that all makes so much sense. And it also feels like right now she's kind of picking and choosing from the buffet of your masculine gift, your energy, your intimacy, about what she wants and what she doesn't want. And that does put her into a place of she can feel a sense of her own power in that, because she can choose, yes, I want this, or no, I want to deny something else. And that can build a comfort level, but doesn't necessarily build in her a feeling of sexuality and attraction, because this is evolutionary part of her that, like, he's just at my beck and call, versus this is a high value man who, if he chooses to take his gift somewhere else, oh crap, like I lose that. There's almost a little bit of her feeling like she owns your gift, that I wish she could feel a little bit more honor and reverence for, because I feel like you deserve that.
Yeah, and so to close this out, Josh, and we'll talk more about this in KLP and in one-on-ones and such, and next week if you want to come on again. It does, I believe, in our professional opinion, it does hurt. It does hurt to offer her the buffet of whatever she's feeling like. It does erode your own respect for what relationship means to you. This has been my experience, and this has been many men's experience, and we'll talk about this more. But it does hurt to just say, hey, I'm available for whatever you want, to pick and choose when you want, and I'm just going to be here and wait for you to kind of give permission in some way for us to step forward in relationship. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for you to penetrate me. I'm going to wait for you to tell me what you want. I'm going to wait for you to dictate to me what I can do and what I can't do. And so I'm just going to be passive, and I'm basically going to wait for you, my woman, to tell me what's okay. And so she can just piecemeal walk up to the buffet at any time that she wants. And you're just kind of waiting for her to give you permission to live fully. That's what we see in this spot. So we definitely need more time to talk about this another time. And so I do think, and I'll ask you to consider what we've talked about here, in that her being able to choose whatever she wants from you. So I want you to think about how the power dynamic of the situation right now may affect your own view of intimacy for you and your own respect for yourself, how she views respect for you. It's a great question. We'll continue that another time. Josh, Parrish, thank you so much for coming on. Parrish, appreciate you. Every man in the chat. See you guys next week.